Hi, guys. So we had some technical difficulties, but thanks for sticking with it. And I guess I'll get right into it. I'm not going to be able to share my screen, uh, but I'll try to be entertaining and informative. And uh, and then I welcome questions along the way. So here we go. So a little bit about my background. I'm a professional artist for 18 years now. I usually just so I don't date myself too much, I tell like I've always kind of rounded down now, because like the closer I get to 20 years, of just people start adding it up, and I'm like, like it seems like forever. So I rounded down to like 17, 18 years. I think that's a good number, but I've been a professional since 2002. So that's 19 years technically. I started in that summer up in Canada, Ottawa, Canada. And I started with a small press, sole proprietorship that was like a publishing press. And my idea initially was that I was going to create these fine artworks, some of which you could like see in the back, even the sculptures, mine here in my New York home studio. And so my idea was like I was going to create these great big artworks, and then I was going to, photograph them and put them in a sequence and create this like new type of graphic novel. And I was doing that at the beginning, but it was not as easy as I imagined. And I also published other books. I published some art books, one of which is in the National Gallery of Canada, with other authors and artists. And so I had that for 5 years, and then I let it expire because I turned to freelancing in that process. In that 5-year process, I turned to freelancing because I wasn't making money selling paintings in cafes and bars. And so it was like kind of like a rough but really cherishable experience during those formative years as a professional. So there I was, like at the beginning of my career, with nothing but a dial-up internet connection, and tapped out of money, um, and and then I had to accept social assistance after my first summer because I bled my credit cards, uh, and then it was really like embarrassing, and I was struggling. So I was just at home. I had a graphic designer to design my website initially, but then I wasn't able to any longer to afford them. Uh, so I had to learn how to design my own website, and in that process, um, I was like contacting my hosts for customer help, and they said like, hey, if like we could only do so much because I was just bugging them. I had no money, and I was just kind of asking questions on things. They said like, why don't you go to this website called scriptlance.com, which is now bought by freelancer.com. And they said, why don't you hire somebody there? Like a lot of overseas talent was available. So I couldn't even afford that. But I saw an opportunity. So back in early 2000s um, there, there was like a big boom, like internet boom, and everybody and their dog was creating some sort of website and taking advantage of this bubble that would burst very soon because only certain companies could stay afloat. So I saw an opportunity, and my skills as an illustrator and as a writer, uh, I kind of packaged those to do certain projects that were within that realm. So it was my only way to make money, basically. Very slowly with that basic dial-up connection. So I started to bid on projects, started to make money, and then I started to teach what little I knew. I immediately became an authority for any opportunity where I could well, sure, I'd love to share my knowledge, and at the same time make a living, So kind of together, the freelancing and the teaching were my first avenues of making a solid income from being an artist. So that's kind of like the very, very beginning. Um, Flash forward like several years, because I registered in 2011. I registered Masterpiece Art School in Canada, and it was structured in a way that it was a corporation that did business as Masterpiece Art School. And I structured it that way for liability reasons, because I was teaching classes, and it worked that way for insurance. Like, God forbid something happened in one of my classrooms, I couldn't get sued. The company could. So I structured it that way, and that was like a fun business exploration. Still during that time, 2011, before I moved to the US, I wasn't really making that much to justify uh, owning a corporation, and it was very expensive to run it. Expensive for me because, for example, $3,000 for an accountant to do my bookkeeping. And actually, I was doing my own bookkeeping, and I was just handing that over to the accountant, and it was $3,000. And then the taxes that I paid after that was still like $2,500. So it was kind of expensive, and it was hard for me to justify. But the business was very lucrative. It was like 80% profit running that school, because most of the students bought their own supplies, or they paid for supplies extra. And I had a good balance of freelancing and teaching. And so I would like teach several nights a week. And like it would be Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I would have 3 class blocks in the evenings. And then Saturdays, I would teach portfolio classes and one-on-one. And that was like really my work week. And occasionally I'd organize like a 3-hour workshop on like portraiture or something like that. And that was good. And then the rest of the time, like my income was split with freelancing. And part of the fascination with me with having the classes was that as a freelancer, you're kind of stuck at home, like the way I am now. I work at home a lot. So, it was like an opportunity to like communicate and, find like-minded people, and mostly in students. So it was my way to get out of, like my little world in my apartment. So that was a good balance. And I think like that's very important. I'm sure like a lot of comic book creators do a similar thing by going to conventions. Although the difference is that as an independent comic creator, if you are one, it's very, very expensive to set up shop and get what you call it, a table at one of those conventions. So you're with your inventory, you're paying like $1,000 for your energy being like drained all weekend, because it's like performance, like the way I do it. It's like a lot of standing, a lot of engaging people, and pitching your product. So the difference is that the teaching for me was like, it was, like I said, 80% profit, whereas like the way I do business at conventions, it's I'm lucky if I break even. So I see a question, so I want to just got a comment. So I see there's a comment. I'll read it once it's posted. Oh, there it is. One of the bravest creators I've ever met. Oh, thanks, Annabelle. Right here, folks. Not afraid to just live out his dreams on his own terms. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. So that kind of leans into what my schedule is like now, because it's like you say, on my own terms. To some extent, what I like about working for myself as a freelancer, and mind you, over the years and even currently, typical freelance jobs that I get are comic book creations for independent creators. So I do, panel by panel and page by page. I do covers. I do a lot of book illustrations. I do consulting for self-publishing. I also do mentoring for freelancing. So I work in that field. But as much empowering as it is, and as much as independence as I have, I still serve someone. Difference that I like now, it's like a little kind of a luxury, is that I don't have anybody over my shoulder. Like, I'm hyper motivated and hyper scheduled, and I could talk about that schedule too, which is in my book, It's a Living, which is on Amazon, and there's an audiobook too, but it's got pictures. So so I'm very scheduled, but like, let's say I get a project, and I can do it on my own time. I can juggle like several projects, and I can organize those, and nobody's watching over my shoulder or bugging me. And I'm in a very lucky place right now, because most of the clients that I have, they're pretty good. They're not too anxious. Like, I have relatively plenty of time, although I do have some deadlines, and it's up to me to schedule those and deliver. And I set promises for clients, and I set my own schedule often, whether they say, like, there's no rush or something. I still, if I'm talking to them on the phone, I'll still give them a timeline. Like, I think of what I got going on, and I go, okay, I'll have like a preliminary in 1 or 2 days, or I'll tell them, like, Tuesday, you'll have that update. And, and then you give me feedback, and then, like, Wednesday, we'll clean that up. So I give them these, milestones, and I communicate very clearly. So that's one of the kind of traits of success for freelancing. So currently, I've been really kind of lucky this year, because, like, I pretty much haven't had to bid on a new project all year. And I think it, like, started last fall. It just, recurring clients, or clients found me. I had like maybe I'll come back to these, but I've had certain projects that came to me, and maybe I'll give some examples. Remind me, guys, to give you examples. So I've been very lucky that way. But typically, when work is dry as a freelancer, you have to bid and win projects. And over the years, I've developed, and it's kind of like in the first few years, I developed this very tight sales pitch, on how to get clients, successfully. So basically, this is like what I do as a freelancer, and you could pursue the same road. Certainly, you could apply this template technique for selling yourself to clients. Through email, even. This template can be adaptable to email inquiries. It could also be adaptable to when you're bidding actively on, like, a website such as freelancer.com, upwork.com, or guru.com, which are the 3 main ones that I work on. Okay. And if you look on each one, you look for my profile on Upwork, I'm top rated. I don't know how many reviews, because that's actually been relatively new, but I have like, maybe I might have 100. I'm not sure. But let's see. And then Guru, I have a few hundred because I've been on that many years, and then I have a lot of recurring clients with relationships from there. And Freelancer, which used to be Scriptlance, that's where I have the most actual reviews. I think it's like just over 500 or close, either right under 500 or just over 500 excellent reviews. So, um, so I've done like literally maybe well over 2,000 projects in that time, because a lot of those reviews, like clients were retained sometimes off the site, and then there were like a lot of live clients that found me through, who knows, Yelp, or so that's one of the marketing things as a freelancer that you have to keep in mind. You have to spread yourself out, and so people can find you, and that's kind of why I haven't had to look for work in the last year, is because, like, I guess I come up on these searches. Like one client found me on yeah, I guess before we get into the pitch, I'll go into the marketing. But one client found me on Facebook. He just liked my work. He saw I was professional. Last, like 2 days ago, there's a new comment. 2 days ago, oh, thanks, Eric. 2 days ago, somebody found me on Upwork. I wanted to reread that again. Okay. Great point. Staying independent is hard, but you learn so much more about all parts of business. Amazing story. Thank you, Eric. No one knows it much better than you, the founder of Imbion Con. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah. So you have to kind of spread yourself out. And then you have to have like a good portfolio of works that takes time to build. But at the beginning, you really have to be very selective. You have to pinpoint what sort of projects on a certain platform that you would be suitable for. So I'm covering like a lot of topics here in a very short amount of time. So, for example, like back when I started on Scriptlance, most of the work was for website development and design. So I had a bit of an animation background. I mean, I studied it in college. So, and then I studied cartooning. So I didn't do a lot of coding, but eventually I did design websites because I learned to do that for myself. But ultimately what I was gearing towards was to like focus on things that I enjoyed more, which was less of the website design. Although I still do that now because clients ask me and they know that I'm so professional that if they ask me to do something, I'm going to like do a lot of research. I'm going to take care of it, and I'll do a great job. So they would rather work with me. So, and I don't mean that in a gloating way, but I have examples. So, so you want to make sure that like you don't like you focus your portfolio. So during that time, I had like a screenshot or two of my website. Maybe I designed like some template or something like that. So I would put a little portfolio for web design. But then I would have a lot of like mascot logo options. So because I specialize in cartoons and comics and things. So I would immediately put those designs. And then in those early years, I designed a lot of headers and banners that incorporated logos because everybody needed those certain like particular graphics for their website designs. So, I did those and flyers and things like that. So, so it's important to just kind of categorize those. I always played a lot, like I kind of spread out myself, and then focused. So the way I would focus is I would create a broad portfolio, but then once I had like a certain kind of cushion income that I could be selective, that I could afford to be selective, then I would pick and choose the sort of projects that I bid on. So I would particularly when I wanted to stop doing like flash animations that were used in websites, I would then focus on just logo designs, and I would only bid on those projects. And then if I had kind of tapped out those projects, sometimes you have to bid on like 20 projects and then you win one or two, but the more experience you have, especially when you use this template that I'm going to give you in a minute, the more experience you have, the more like quickly you win projects without having to bid as much. Like now, like if I just peek into one of those, I'm more selective, and I know what type of client is posting the project, and I know how serious they are, how in need they are of like, actually like awarding a project, like that they'll actually, I can sense through their description if they're like, action driven, and they will like award the project, and it's, I can close the deal, or if they're just kind of kicking tires on something that, they don't plan to follow through with. So I can gauge those clients a lot easier. And then I only bid on the projects that are most like at least over 80% suitable. And I know that my portfolio has a lot of examples of those, mainly like at least 3 solid examples of only relative work that is particular to that project. If somebody says like, I need a mascot logo design with a mouse, okay, by this point I have like a folder organized of like just all the logos I've done over the years, the best ones. So then I can pinpoint, like I have like some rat logos and some mice, and so if I don't have enough, like at least 3 solid examples that I feel like are going to be standout, then I'm not going to bid. Like why waste my time and theirs and lose tokens, that I have to purchase on these websites, or why spend like bids that I have bought a membership for on these websites, on a project that maybe I wouldn't win because I'm not taking it seriously, so I'm very choosy. That's kind of like the key. But I think like with a decent portfolio, I should say, before I'm going to go into this template, with a decent portfolio, only your best work, well organized, good like presentation of yourself, very professional, good reaction like time, like if you bid, somebody replies, you reply back, you're available in your time zone, then you can't fail, because you'll more likely get hired if you're available and professional, even if your talent level is lower. Because I've outsourced, and I've worked with like artists that are more talented than me. Sometimes they become unavailable fast, because they're kind of on my level or higher, like talent wise. Yeah. So they get picked up, or they get to be choosy, because I usually have to like hire them for what, less than I want a project for. So, but yeah, so professionalism is key. And because skill is something you can develop and get better at, as is professionalism. But man, you really got to get yourself together before you communicate with a client. So, okay, here it is. So it's in my book, Freelancing, the Freelancing Online chapter. The book is It's a Living. Okay. So in here, I give my template. Here it is. So I'll read it out, and then I'll break it down for you. And sorry, I can't share the screen, because then you could get a visual. But if I edit, whatever. So, okay. Hi, I'm perfect for your project, as this is my specialty. You can see similar work attached. I am available to start ASAP and complete within a few business days. Please choose me to begin today. Thank you. Smiley face. Cristian S. Aluas. Okay, so in the book, I break it down for you, and I'm going to do it right here too, because I feel like this is like the best template that you can possibly get. It's worked for me like thousands of times, and I use this religiously. So here it is. So I, from the first line, hi. I don't use hey. I don't use. Sometimes I use hi there if I don't know the client's name. But if in their post they list their name, like, I need such and such job done. This is my budget, and then sign their name. Address them by their name, because and not their full name, just their first name is fine. Because then it like, it feels to them when they read it like, hey, this is somebody I know. So, but don't call them hey dude, because that's what's friendly to you with your peers. That's unprofessional. That's unprofessional. And sometimes I meet like these kind of street artists and stuff, and like, and I've done murals, for example, which I cite, when dealing with clients chapter. And then, like I meet these like owners of like pretty big businesses, but then when they book me as a muralist, or when they did in the past, because I usually don't do murals too much now because it's too physical, and I'd rather just stay home and work online. So, but anyway, when they book me, they think I'm just like a graffiti artist or something, even though I'll come like wearing a blazer. So they're like, oh, that's sick. And then like, hey, what do they call me? Dude? Is it dude or something? I forget. But like, yeah, like I think they call me dude. I forget the term now, but it's, but yeah, so they're really loose with the language in addressing me, but I can't be that way with them. So I always call them sir. I mean, I could, but I feel like it crosses the line in their mind, because the way I deal with clients is there's a lot of psychology, and so I let them know that they're like the most important aspect of this relationship, and then I'm subservient to them, but I'm very professional, and then depending on like once I have like a good relationship and a long-term relationship with them, then I begin to offer like more tidbits of like me, like I'll say like as a in my experience, and I list my experience, and then I make suggestions, and I say like, you don't have to take it, but this is what I would recommend, highly recommend, based on my experience. So then I can then kind of like make suggestions and guide them as if like I'm kind of leading them, and to some extent, you are leading them through a job that they have no experience with. But sometimes when you do murals, it's a little different because that's offline, because they treat you like a laborer, basically. They're just paid, like they say like, oh, cool art, or that's sick, but I don't think in most of the clients I've encountered, they don't really appreciate it. They just have a wall to cover up with something that looks attractive rather than like a brick, so then they figure, okay, that looks disgusting in front of like, or on the side of my restaurant or something. I'll just cover that up, and then they don't know art. They just treat you as like, they want to know a price based on square footage or hourly. And then when they think hourly, they think what they're paying their cooks and their dishwashers, so it's kind of it's a different thing. But if you guys anybody's getting into that field, reach out to me, and I'll share more stories. So the next line, so I keep it formal, and I try to use their name with hi. I am perfect for your project as this is my specialty. So one, everything's my specialty, and I wouldn't bid or waste somebody's time on by bidding on their project if it wasn't my specialty. So that's something I figure out in my head ahead of time. It's like, am I actually suited for this? And then let's say I'm like 75% suited. Maybe there's some challenges, or there's like, it's kind of an avenue of like art or design that I'm like going into. But I really, I want to move into that field, that corner of my industry. Then I sell them on it. And I always say, I am perfect for it. I'm 100% the best, even though in my mind, I'm like, oh, I haven't, there's things that I still have a learning curve. But I know once I get that project, and like I visualize myself completing it better than my capabilities at the moment that I'm bidding. That's my trick. And I mean, I use perfect. This is kind of a little wrestling term. When I was like a kid, I liked to watch wrestling, and I always loved Mr. Perfect. He wasn't my favorite. I also liked Macho Man, but Mr. Perfect was kind of cool because he did everything perfect, And every time I use the word perfect, I'm always thinking of that, because it was kind of the first instance that I saw references to it. So I'm always perfect for this project, and this particular task is my specialty. And then that's why you can see similar work attached. So I don't waste your time with anything else, and I attach only relevant images. In some portfolios, like on guru.com, they have folders you could attach, like logos, illustrations, whatever, comic book pages. So I'll attach sometimes the folders. But other times I'll attach images. Like on Upwork, you can't attach folders. You can maybe send a link to your profile, but your profile is too broad. They don't know where to look, So I always spend the time and attach images like that are only relevant to what they need. Like, don't waste your time, Your time is precious. Their time is even more precious, And they came there with money in their pocket, and they want to hire someone, So you don't waste their time. So I only include relevant images, and I take the time, and this template is simple, but you have to expand it and go into detail often. And because like after this line, I could include like, and you'll notice that this particular image is just like that, like I'll sometimes add an extra line or two here. And occasionally I will add a link, but it has to be a particular link. Like, let's say I'm bidding on an animation and I have a perfect example that's suitable that's published on YouTube. I'll grab that link, but I don't include a slew of links, like I've created these projects, and a lot of overseas talent waste my time. They post their whole portfolio. They don't pay attention to what I actually wrote and what I need. They just send a lot of links, and I end up clicking on those links, and they're not even relevant to my project. And then I have to then ask them, like, did you read it? Like, do you have something actually, So then it creates more work for me. And you don't want to do that to your client. You have to respect them and their time and their money. And so next, I'm available to start ASAP, as soon as possible, and complete within a few business days. So you're always available immediately. Don't tell them you're available like next week, even if that may be true. You have to be available today. Like, you may have work, but then that maybe that'll end by the end of the week, and then next week you might be dry. So, you're planning ahead by bidding. If you're in a project getting situation, you should always be available now, and then reply right away and get that project set up, because it'll still take a day or two for them to award the project, then set an escrow, and then start, and maybe you could do a sketch while you're finishing up these projects, and then close it out, on Monday. Let's say it starts midweek or something, So you're always available right away. And then you specify the amount of days. In this section, I often expand it, actually, not just sometimes. Like, if it's like a logo design, I visualize again, like exactly how long it takes me. I visualize my schedule. I make promises. I say like, I can, uh, send you the preliminary within the day or same day. Sometimes I promise it if I'm available. I say like award it today, and I'll get you the preliminary same day, and they love it. There's a client will not love you more. If they award a project, they fund it. Don't begin work without funding, and then later that day, like even if like you get the project by 5, you go, hey, I'll send you a quick sketch right after dinner, and then you deliver on your promise. I mean, it's love at first sight. You'll have that client for life. You keep delivering that way. And then he replies. He's got overnight to think about it. The next day is a new sunrise. And then you go, oh, wonderful. Okay, good feedback, and I'll update you later this afternoon or something. So then you make those promises. And sometimes I say like, the whole project will be completed within 2 to 3 days or whatever. And then I sometimes add, like if I sense like if my price on the bid is like a certain amount that I know is like above competitors, then I use this section to specify exactly what they're getting, So I'll go, within a couple of days, then I explain. I start out with preliminary designs, then we review them. Then once approved, I do cleanup, and then upon completion, you get a package of print and web versions of your design, original source files. Sometimes I specify if it's vector or Photoshop, fonts that were used, and my standard copyright transfer. Now that's like a package I always include. I have like a copyright transfer, which again is in It's a Living, and then I include that in every package, so then they know what they're getting. And I also spell it out for them. I take them by the hand. It's like, it's like they trust you. And especially like if it's a new client to working online, that's what you need to do. And you spell it out for them, and you go, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He's going to take me by the hand. I like his work. He's ready to start, and he's going to deliver everything I could possibly need. Plus, I get the copyright. And then they look at the price and go, well, nobody sent me a more professional message than this guy. So, like, it's worth it, even if it's double. And sometimes they'll tell you. I get a lot of messages because I overbid when I'm not hungry for work. Since I often get invited to projects. So I'm not hungry, so I'll just bid what I would ideally like. And so they'll go, oh, man, I love your work. Sorry, I love your work, but it's out of my price range. And then I negotiate, It's like, let's see if we find a happy medium, So we're wrapping up very soon, and I'll open it up for questions in about maybe 3-4 minutes. So yeah. So then choose me to begin today. There's no better time like the present. So they're reading your message right now, and again, this can work for emails. Like you get so they tell you what they need, you message them back in the email, and even texts, like you have to keep them brief and like not make it look like it's a copy and paste or something like that, obviously, but they have to have these elements, and the please choose me to begin today is your closing line, from that film in the late 80s, 90s. It's called Glenn Ross. There's a performance in there where the salesman comes in and he says, ABC, always be closing. And I remind you of that in my book because I've followed that digitally, something like that. And so diligently. So, so, oh, they're reading it now, and you have their eyes on your project, and there's a button. If they're on a platform like Freelancer, Guru, or Upwork, there's a little button right in the corner or right in the bottom, wherever it is. They see it within view next to your message, and they can click that button to award the project. And then you could like discuss, like, if they don't know already, to like fund the escrow so you can begin. Then you can say like, great, thanks for awarding the project, I love it, I'm excited, I'm looking forward to it, please fund the escrow, and then I can officially begin. If they had but you don't have to discuss that in that first message. You're just trying to win them over. And then, yeah, so you have to close. That's very important. So thank you, smiley face. That's kind of, it's a friendly thing. I don't do like sincerely or like regards. It's just not me. I mean, I found something that works, and I like the little smiley. It's like, it's disarming. It's friendly. It's a very kind of like social media. But then I follow it with my full name, Cristian S. Aluas. And there's a technique in that. It's like, yeah, sure, I could do Cristian only, or, but the technique, the psychological aspect of the way I do it, and my reasoning for it, is that I put my full name, that these clients can Google me, and then I come up and they see I'm professional. Like my name means something. Even if they don't Google me, the way I put my full name is like, this means something. And like, I am proud of my name. It's like The Crucible, by Arthur Miller. It's the name. This is what matters. It's like your honor as a man or a woman, standing up for what you believe in, what you were born into. This is your name, and this is your family's legacy, and so forth. So, and certainly the representation for your career. So this is, this means something. So that's really the formula. So yeah, that's my secret recipe, which is available for everyone. So let's see. I don't know what else to add. I feel like ending on that is good. If there are any questions, this is the time that I can answer them. Certainly, you can reach out to me as well, but I'm available right now live. And another thing, you can reach out to me through masterpieceartschool.com, and through Facebook and Instagram, at Masterpiece Art School on Instagram. I'm available like every day. I keep regular hours. So besides winning these, if you want to do it full time, which is what this tutorial is about, you have to have a schedule. So in the book, I also list my schedule, my day-to-day schedule, and you have to keep to that so you're efficient. And I also write about diet. So I'm healthy. I think clearly. I'm not sitting at my desk with like aches in my hip and things like that because I ate a basket of donuts. I do like donuts, but I don't eat a basket of them. So I see some questions, so I'm going to go into okay. Oh, thanks. All right. So I guess I think that's it for now. If there aren't any questions, thank you. And see you online.